My boss Sarah stole my promotion and my husband Mike gave her a passionate kiss. The irony today is our 5th wedding anniversary. I stood frozen in the doorway of the conference room gripping the surprise lunch I'd brought for Mike. The champagne bottle I'd splurged on slipped from my fingers, shattering on the floor. Only then did they break apart, their lipstick-smeared faces turning toward me in slow motion. Emily, Mike jumped back like he'd been electrocuted. This isn't, save it, I whispered, my voice cracking. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. The late nights, the mysterious texts, the sudden business trips that coincided with Sarah's absences. Sarah didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. She smoothed her skirt and flashed that predatory smile I'd grown to hate over 3 years of working under her. Emily, you should have knocked. Her voice dripped with false concern. This is unfortunate timing. Unfortunate timing, I wanted to scream, to throw something to claw her perfectly made-up face. Instead, I stood paralyzed, watching my life implode in real time. I recommended you for the Harrison account yesterday, Sarah continued as if discussing the weather. But the board agreed you are not executive material. Mike thought so too. Mike wouldn't meet my eyes. Let's talk about this at home. Home? The 4-bedroom house we'd saved for years to buy. The home where we'd talked about starting a family once I made senior manager. The promotion Sarah had just informed me I wouldn't get, because I wasn't executive material. Did you know? I asked Mike, hating how my voice trembled. When they passed me over yesterday, were you in that meeting? His silence was answer enough. 3 years, I said, the words barely audible. I've worked on the Harrison account for 3 years, and you gave it to her? It's business, Emily, Sarah said, checking her watch impatiently. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally, my husband was screwing my boss, who had just stolen the promotion I'd been working toward for years. On my anniversary, I looked at Mike, the man I'd supported through law school, whose student loans I'd helped pay while living in a cramped studio apartment, eating ramen for dinner. The man who'd vowed 5 years ago today to be faithful to cherish me. How long? I asked. Mike finally looked up, his handsome face contorted with guilt, or was it just annoyance at being caught? Emily, please, how long? Sarah sighed dramatically. Almost a year, and honestly, you should thank me. I've given Mike what you obviously couldn't: validation, excitement, ambition. He's been so much happier. The room spun. A year, they'd been laughing behind my back for a year. I turned and walked out, legs somehow carrying me to the elevator, through the lobby to my car. I sat there gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, my anniversary ring glinting mockingly in the sunlight. My phone buzzed with text from Mike, coming home to explain. It's not what you think. Please be reasonable. Be reasonable. I looked up at the towering glass building where I'd spent countless nights working overtime, where I'd sacrificed my health and personal life for a company that saw me as disposable, where my husband and boss had been carrying on behind my back. Something cold and clarifying washed over me. For the first time in my life, I didn't want to be reasonable. I started the car, hands steady now. If Mike and Sarah thought they could humiliate me and walk away unscathed, they were about to learn a very painful lesson. The house felt like a stranger's when I returned that evening. Every framed photo of Mike and me now seemed like a prop on a stage set, fake, staged for an audience that no longer existed. I'd spent the afternoon driving aimlessly, ignoring Mike's increasingly desperate texts, my mind racing between shock, grief, and rage. When the front door opened at 7:30, I was sitting calmly at our dining table, a glass of wine in hand. Mike entered cautiously, like someone approaching a wild animal. Emily, he started, his voice gentler than I'd heard it in months. What you saw today was you kissing my boss on our anniversary? I finished for him. The same boss who told me yesterday that I wasn't getting the promotion I've worked 80-hour weeks for. The promotion you knew I needed for us to start trying for a baby. He winced. It's complicated, enlightened me. My voice was eerily calm even to my own ears. Mike paced the room, running his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. Sarah and I, it just happened. We were working late on the Pritchard case last summer and, spare me the romantic details, I cut him off. So while I was killing myself to make senior manager, you were killing our marriage. That's not fair, he said, anger flashing in his eyes. You've been distant for months, always at work, always stressed about this promotion. Do you know how many dinners I've eaten alone? The audacity stole my breath. Are you seriously blaming me for your affair? I was working those hours for us? No, he shot back. You were working them for you. Your ambition, your career goals. I supported it because I thought it would make you happy, but it's changed you, Emily. Sarah understands the demands of our work. She doesn't make me feel guilty for late nights or business trips. Of course she doesn't. I laughed bitterly. She's the one you are with on those business trips? Pipe God, how stupid have I been? Mike's expression softened in that patronizing way that made my skin crawl. You are not stupid, we just grew apart. Sarah thinks I don't give a damn what Sarah thinks. I slammed my glass down, wine sloshing onto the table. Is she the reason I didn't get the promotion? Did you two plan that too? His hesitation told me everything. Sarah felt Daniels was more qualified, he said finally. I agreed with her assessment. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. So you sabotaged my career while screwing my boss. That's quite the power move, Mike. It wasn't like that. The board made the decision. Sarah just influenced it, and you said nothing? It wasn't a question. Mike had the grace to look ashamed. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed, the sound sharp and humorless. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us, 5 years of marriage crumbling in the space of hours. What happens now? He finally asked. What indeed? A part of me wanted to beg him to choose me, to work on our marriage, but the larger part, the part that had been humiliated today, wanted something else entirely. Now, I said, standing up slowly, I am going to pack a bag. I am staying at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow, I'll be speaking with AR about a hostile work environment, and after that, I'll be talking to a divorce attorney. Mike blanched. Emily, don't be hasty. We can work through this. I'll break things off with Sarah. We'll do counseling. Too late. I walked to our bedroom, pulling out a suitcase. You know what the worst part is? Not the affair, not even losing the promotion. It's that you let me walk into that meeting yesterday knowing I wouldn't get it, knowing why, and then plan to celebrate with her on our anniversary. He followed me, watching helplessly as I packed. The dinner reservation wasn't my idea. You made dinner reservations with her today. Another blow. Wow. Emily, please. The house, our finances, everything's connected. Let's be sensible about this. I paused, something in his tone triggering an alarm bell. What about our finances, Mike? He shifted uncomfortably. Just that separating will be complicated legally, financially. For the first time, I looked at my husband. Really looked at him and saw a stranger. What have you done? Nothing. I just mean divorce is messy. You know that from your parents. A low blow bringing up my parents' bitter divorce. But it also made me wonder what he was hiding. I'll figure it out, I said, zipping my suitcase. But first, I'm going to find out exactly what you and Sarah have been up to, because something tells me your affair isn't the only secret you've been keeping. The flash of panic in his eyes confirmed my suspicion. Emily, me, he started, but I was already heading for the door. Don't call me, I said over my shoulder. My lawyer will be in touch. As I drove away, I caught sight of Mike in the rearview mirror standing in our doorway looking lost. Because if there was one thing I'd learned in my career, it was how to investigate thoroughly when something didn't add up, and nothing about this situation added up at all. The Westside Motel wasn't exactly 5-star accommodation, but it had 2 advantages. It was far from our neighborhood, and they accepted cash with minimal questions. I paid for 3 nights, ignoring the clerk's curious glance at my tear-stained face and hastily packed suitcase. Sleep was impossible. I spent the night alternating between sobbing into a scratchy pillow and furiously researching divorce attorneys on my laptop. By dawn, I had an appointment with Carolyn Weber, supposedly the most ruthless divorce lawyer in the city, and a plan to visit my bank as soon as it opened. I also had 7 missed calls from Mike and 3 voicemails I couldn't bring myself to listen to. At 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into First National Bank. The friendly teller's smile faltered when I asked to review all our joint accounts. Is everything okay, Mrs. Collins? She asked as she typed. Just some routine financial planning, I lied, forcing a smile. The smile slid off my face as the screen populated with information. Our joint savings account, the one we'd been building for a down payment on a vacation home, showed a balance of $843. Last I'd checked, it held over $60,000. There must be some mistake, I said, my voice tight. Can you show me recent transactions? The teller looked uncomfortable but turned the screen toward me. A series of withdrawals over the past 6 months, all in amounts just under $10,000, all authorized by Mike, and our investment account. I asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't be good. I am sorry that account was closed 3 weeks ago. The room tilted slightly. That account had held my inheritance from my grandmother, nearly $200,000 we'd been investing for our future. By whom, she checked. Mr. Collins closed it in person. The funds were transferred to an external account, an account I clearly had no access to. Mike had been systematically draining our finances exactly when his affair with Sarah had heated up. I left the bank feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. In less than 24 hours, I'd lost my marriage, my promotion, and apparently most of my savings. What else had I been blind to? My phone rang, Sarah's name flashing on the screen. The audacity was breathtaking. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emily, we need to talk about your position at the company, she said without preamble, her voice crisp and professional as if yesterday had never happened. My position? You mean the one you made sure I didn't get? She sighed dramatically. This emotional reaction isn't helping anyone. The situation between Mike and me is personal. Let's keep business separate. I laughed incredulously. Is that what you told yourself while you were screwing my husband and sabotaging my career simultaneously? I haven't sabotaged anything, she snapped, her professional veneer cracking slightly. Your performance reviews have been mediocre at best. The Harrison account needs someone with vision. Like you, how convenient. Emily, her voice hardened. I am trying to be reasonable here. Come in this afternoon and we'll discuss a lateral move that might better suit your capabilities. Translation. Come in so I can demote or fire you while looking magnanimous. I don't think so, Sarah. In fact, I'm feeling quite unwell after discovering my husband's infidelity. I might need several sick days. This is exactly the unprofessional behavior I am talking about, she hissed. If you are not at your desk by noon, we'll consider it job abandonment. Interesting threat, I said coolly. I wonder how Aber would view that given the circumstances, or legal. I am sure they'd love to hear about a boss who sleeps with her employee's husband, then threatens her job. Silence then. You have nothing. No proof, don't I? Those texts, hotel receipts, calendar entries. I've lived with him for 5 years. You think I don't know where he keeps everything? I was bluffing, but Sarah didn't know that. You are making a serious mistake, she said finally. Mike said you were reasonable. Mike doesn't know me as well as he thinks. Neither do you. After hanging up, I sat in my car, mind racing. I needed evidence of the affair, of the financial impropriety, of whatever else they were hiding, and I needed allies. As if summoned by my thoughts, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jason from IT. Coffee at Merton's 1 p.m. Jason, the quiet guy who'd helped recover my files when my computer crashed last month. I vaguely remembered him mentioning how the company's security systems worked during our brief interaction. I hesitated only briefly before replying. I'll be there. For the first time since seeing that kiss, I felt a flicker of something other than despair. If Mike and Sarah wanted to play dirty, they were about to learn I could dig in the mud with the best of them. Merton's coffee shop was tucked away on a side street far enough from our office that I wouldn't run into colleagues. I spotted Jason immediately hunched over a laptop in the corner, dark hair falling across his forehead. He looked up as I approached, pushing his glasses nervously up his nose. Thanks for meeting me, I said, sliding into the booth across from him. No problem. He closed his laptop partway. Everyone at the office is talking, not to your face, obviously, but everyone knows my husband is sleeping with our boss, I finished flatly. Jason winced. Sorry, for what it's worth, most people are on your side. Sarah's not exactly beloved. I sipped the coffee he'd already ordered for me, black, no sugar, how I always took it at the office, observant. You said you had information? Jason glanced around before leaning forward. I am taking a huge risk here. If anyone finds out, I understand. Whatever you tell me stays between us. He nodded, seeming to make a decision. Last month, IT upgraded the server security. During the migration, I noticed some irregularities in the accounting files. Beamiet's the Harrison account. My attention sharpened. What kind of irregularities? Expense reports that don't match our internal records, invoices for services never rendered, and guess whose approval signature was on everything? Sarah's, I said automatically. And your husband's as legal counsel? The second betrayal of the day landed like a physical blow. Are you saying they're embezzling? I am saying the numbers don't add up. And when I flagged it to my supervisor, the issue mysteriously disappeared. Then Sarah requested I be transferred to another department, but you are still in IT for now. My transfer's effective next week. I studied him, trying to read his motivation. Why tell me this? Why risk your job? His eyes met mine directly for the first time. Because it's wrong what they're doing. To the company and to you. He hesitated. And because Sarah's done this before at Jensen Corp. What? I nearly spilled my coffee. Sarah came from Merrill Lynch, not Jensen. That's what her resume says, Jason agreed. But 3 years ago, she was briefly at Jensen under a different name, left abruptly after some accounting discrepancies, changed her name legally, got the job with us. My head was spinning. How do you know this? I may have done some digging after I found the irregularities. He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I am good with computers, better than the company knows. I sat back processing this information. If Sarah was embezzling and Mike was helping her, I need proof, I said finally. Hard evidence I can take to the board or the police. Jason nodded. That's why I contacted you. I can get access to the server after hours, but I need someone with authorization to access the financial files. My access is limited, I admitted. isn't. Sarah made sure of that, but Mike's isn't, Jason pointed out, and I am guessing you know his passwords. Mike used the same password for everything, a combination of his birth year and our anniversary date. The irony wasn't lost on me maybe, I said slowly, but even if we get evidence Sarah has the board wrapped around her finger, they might just cover it up. Not if we get it to the right people simultaneously. The board, the sex, the press. Jason pushed his glasses up again, but we need to be careful, if they suspect anything. He didn't need to finish the sentence. If Sarah and Mike were embezzling, they wouldn't hesitate to make me the scapegoat. Jason nodded, sliding a thumb drive across the table. My contact info's on here along with some preliminary findings. Review it somewhere secure. As I turned to leave, he called after me, Emily, watch your back and check your home computer. If I were Mike, I'd be covering my tracks right about now. The warning stayed with me as I drove to my lawyer's office. What had I gotten myself into, and more importantly, what had Mike and Sarah pulled me into without my knowledge? When I arrived at Caroline Baber's office, the first thing she said after hearing my story was exactly what I'd been thinking. Follow the money. Cheating is about sex. Hiding money is about fear, and your husband is definitely afraid of something. Caroline Weber's office felt like a fortress, all dark wood and burgundy leather, projecting strength and stability I desperately needed. She listened without interruption as I recounted everything. The affair, the promotion, the missing funds, Jason's allegations. So, she said when I finished tapping her manicured nails on her desk, your husband and your boss are potentially involved in both infidelity and financial impropriety, possibly embezzlement, and you've been conveniently set up as a potential fall person. Put so bluntly, it sounded insane, but I nodded. We file for divorce immediately and get an emergency injunction to freeze all remaining joint assets. Then we subpoena their financial records, both personal and professional. Won't that tip them off? Absolutely. But right now they think you are just a scorned wife. Let's keep it that way while we gather evidence. By the time I left Caroline's office, we had a battle plan. She would handle the legal front while I worked with Jason to collect evidence. I had just reached my car when my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Hello, I answered warily. Emily, it's Diane from Jensen Corporation. The name sent a jolt through me. Jensen, where Sarah had apparently worked under a different name. Diane? We met at the regional businesseth last year. I am head of HR at Jensen. Memory clicked into place. A tall woman with hearty laugh who'd commented on Sarah's speech. Of course, how can I help you? Actually, I am calling to help you. Jason King reached out, said you might need information about a former employee of ours, Sandra Whitman. My breath caught. Sandra Whitman, Sarah's previous name? Yes, I said carefully. Any information would be appreciated. Diane lowered her voice. Normally I wouldn't do this, but after what she did to our company, Sandra Whitman worked here for 11 months as an account manager, left suddenly after funds were discovered missing from several client accounts. We were building a case, but she disappeared before we could file charges. How much are we talking about? Nearly $500,000. We managed to cover it to avoid client panic, but it nearly bankrupted us. The board hushed it up. Too embarrassing to admit we'd been swindled. My mind raced. Do you have documentation, evidence? Some nothing we could take to court, but enough to show a pattern. I can send what I have, but Emily, her voice turned serious. Be careful. This woman is dangerous, and she doesn't work alone. What do you mean? Sandra always had a male partner, her legal counsel who legitimized everything. Eager man at each company, but same pattern, someone with authority who could sign off on transactions. She was sleeping with. The ground seemed to shift beneath me. At Jensen, who was it? Her boss initially. Then when he got suspicious, she moved on to the CFO's son, lured him to gain deeper access. Poor kid didn't know what hit him. I leaned against my car for support. Diane, the legal counsel at our company, is my husband. Silence, then, oh honey, how long have you been married? 5 years, another pause, and let me guess. She joined your company about a year after you were married, made friends with you first, then gradually shifted her attention to him. The timeline matched perfectly. Sarah had initially been friendly to me, unusually so for a new executive. She'd even invited us to dinner at her place, had seemed genuinely interested in my career goals, until suddenly she wasn't. Emily, Diane said gently, to here is something else you should know. Before Jensen, Sandra worked at Pritchard & Sons in Atlanta. Yurt, the name Sarah Williams there. My blood ran cold. Pritchard. Are you sure? Positive? Why? Mike's first major case was representing Pritchard in a merger 7 years ago. The pieces clicked into horrible place. Mike hadn't met Sarah at our company. They had known each other years before he'd even met me. I need to go, I said abruptly. Please send me whatever documentation you have. I sat in my car, unable to drive, as the full truth dawned on me. This wasn't just an affair. Sarah, or Sandra, or whatever her real name was a con artist who moved from company to company embezzling funds. And Mike wasn't her victim. He was her accomplice. Had been apparently for years, which meant our entire marriage was likely a sham, a convenient cover, while they worked their scheme at my company. The realization was so painful I could barely breathe. My phone buzzed with a text from Jason. Emergency, your credentials have been used to access restricted financial files. They're setting you up. Mens me ASAP. I started the car with shaking hands. I'd been a pawn in their game for 5 years, but not anymore. It was time to stop reacting and start hunting. They created a paper trail leading to you, Jason explained, pointing to his laptop screen, where lines of code meant nothing to me. You were in his tiny apartment windows covered with blankets, his idea of security. How? I haven't accessed any financial systems. No, but you have. He scrolled through a log. Someone used your credentials yesterday to download confidential client information and transfer files to an external IP address. That's impossible. I haven't been at work and my laptop's been with me. They didn't need your laptop, not if Mike gave them your password. Another betrayal in a week full of them, but this one felt calculated rather than emotional, setting me up to take the fall for whatever they were planning. Jason, I spoke with someone from Jensen Corporation. Sarah or Sandra has done this before 10 times at multiple companies, and Mike has known her for years, since before we met. That tracks with what I found. Their digital footprints intersect way before Collins Legal Services brought her on as a client. She was never a client. The words tasted bitter. She was his partner in everything, and you were. The perfect cover, I finished. Legitimate employee with access but not enough authority to notice discrepancies. Trusting wife who wouldn't question late nights, an ideal scapegoat when they're ready to cut and run, which apparently was now. Can we prove any of this? I asked. Jason hesitated. Maybe, but we need to move fast. Beat on these access logs, they're accelerating whatever they've planned. My phone rang. Mike again. For the first time in days, I answered. Where are you? He demanded, skipping any greeting. We need to talk about what? How you've been stealing from the company, or how you've known Sarah for years before we met. Silence then. Who have you been talking to? Does it matter? The truth is finally coming out, Mike. While All of it, he exhaled heavily. Emily, you are being manipulated. Whatever you think you know, I know enough. I know about Jensen Corporation and Pritchard and Sons. I know about the money you've been moving out of our accounts, and I know you are trying to set me up to take the fall. You have no idea what you are involved in, he said, voice low and dangerous, a tone I'd never heard from him before. For your own safety, come home, now, so you can do what? Silence me, frame me more effectively. I am trying to protect you, like you protected me by stealing my inheritance, by sabotaging my promotion, by making me believe our marriage was real. Emily, his voice sounded strained. Things are happening that you don't understand. People are watching, dangerous people. A chill ran through me despite the warm room. What people, Mike? I can't explain over the phone, just come home, please. The desperation sounded genuine, but I'd believed his lies for 5 years. What was one more performance? No, I said firmly. Whatever you and Sarah have gotten yourselves into, you can get yourselves out. I am done being your puppet. I hung up, hands trembling. Jason watched me with concern. What did he say? He implied there are dangerous people involved, that I am in over my head. Jason's expression darkened. He might not be lying about that part. The amounts we're talking about here, this isn't just office embezzlement. This could be money laundering. The thought had occurred to me too. The irregular patterns of withdrawals, always under reporting thresholds. The international clients Sarah had insisted on handling personally. If that's true, I said slowly, then we need to be extremely careful about who we trust with this information. Jason nodded grimly, including your lawyer Caroline, but she's handling my divorce. And how did you find her again? My stomach dropped. Mike recommended her, said she handled his friend's divorce. Convenient, I'd walked right into another trap. If Caroline was connected to Mike or Sarah, everything I told her was already in their hands, including my plan to gather evidence. We need to move now, I said, standing abruptly. Tonight. Here is one more thing you should know, Jason said hesitantly. About me. I tensed, prepared for yet another betrayal. We've met before years ago at State University. I was 2 years ahead of you, but we had induction to business ethics together. You probably don't remember. The memory clicked suddenly. The quieter, less confident version of the man before me, raising his hand in Professor Mitchell's class to argue passionately about corporate responsibility. You had a beard then, I said slowly, and went by Jay. He smiled faintly. Didn't think you'd remember. So this, your help? Is it a coincidence? Not entirely. When I saw your name on the employee directory after I was hired, I remembered you, kept an eye out, I guess. When I noticed the irregularities and saw your husband's signature alongside Sarah's, I knew something was wrong. I didn't know whether to be comforted or creeped out. So you've been watching me. For how long? Not watching, just aware. I respected you in college. You were one of the few who took ethics seriously. When I realized what they might be doing, using your access credentials sometimes, I wanted to help. I studied him, looking for signs of deception, but saw only earnest concern. After a week of earth-shattering betrayals, could I trust this unexpected ally from my past? Did I have a choice? Okay, I said finally, let's get to work. For the next several hours, we compiled everything we had, the Jensen Corporation records Diane had sent, Jason's server logs showing unauthorized access under my credentials, bank statements showing the pattern of withdrawals from my accounts. By midnight, we had enough to raise serious questions, if not prove outright fraud. We should get some sleep, Jason said, eventually rubbing his eyes. Take this to the FBI first thing tomorrow. I nodded, exhausted. I'll sleep on your couch if that's okay. I don't trust the motel now that Mike knows I've connected the dots. Jason was arranging blankets on the couch when my phone buzzed with a text, Sarah's number, but the message chilled me. They found us, your house fire, Mike injured. Come now. Attached was a photo of my house, smoke pouring from the windows, emergency lights flashing in the darkness. It's a trap, Jason said immediately when I showed him the text. They're trying to lure you out. But what if it's not? I stared at the photo of my home, our home with smoke billowing from the windows. What if Mike really is hurt? The same Mike who's been lying to you for 5 years, who's been stealing your money and setting you up to take the fall for his crimes? Jason's voice was incredulous. Emily, think about this. I was thinking about how convincing the photo looked, how real the fire seemed. Despite everything, the thought of Mike injured or worse sent a pang through me. I'll call the fire department, I said, reaching for my phone. The dispatcher confirmed it. A fire had been reported at my address 30 minutes ago. Emergency services were on the scene. No, she couldn't provide information about injuries. I have to go, I said, grabbing my coat. Then I am coming with you, Jason insisted. But we bring everything with us. He shoved our evidence into his laptop bag, and we stay in the car, watching from a distance. If anything seems off, we drive straight to the FBI field office. The drive to my neighborhood felt surreal. As we turned onto my street, the flashing lights of fire trucks and ambulances confirmed. The emergency was real. My house, the home Mike and I had lovingly renovated, was still standing, but smoke poured from the broken windows. A crowd of neighbors had gathered behind the emergency vehicles. Stay in the car, Jason warned as I instinctively reached for the door handle. Watch first. I scanned the scene. Firefighters, Taryn Dix, police. No sign of Mike or Sarah. Then I spotted her, Sarah, talking animatedly to a police officer, gesturing toward the house. Even from this distance, I could see she was playing the distraught friend perfectly. There, I pointed. Sarah's here, but I don't see Mike. As if summoned by his name, a stretcher emerged from the house, Param Dix rushing a figure toward a waiting ambulance. From my vantage point, I couldn't see if it was Mike. Emily, wait, Jason called, but I was already out of the car, drawn by a need to know, to see for myself. I stayed at the perimeter, trying to glimpse the person on the stretcher. A police officer blocked my path. Ma'am, you need to stay back. That's my house, I said. My husband, is he okay? The officer's expression softened. Are you Mrs. Collins? I nodded. Your husband's being transported to Mercy General. Inhalation, some burns. You can meet the ambulance there. Relief and confusion warred within me. If this was a trap, it was elaborate, involving actual emergency services and a genuine fire. What happened? I asked.